Welcome and thanks for joining Watching Code Office Hours session number 103. I'll just add a quick note about what this is for. So if you're new to Office Hours, the point of Office Hours is to help you with any of the material that you're going through at Watching Code. So if you're going through a particular lesson and you're not sure about something or you're stuck with something, then you can just ask me directly. That's what the point of this is. A couple of logistics before we start. The first thing is you want to join the Facebook group if you haven't already. So the Facebook group is where I'll post updates and information about upcoming sessions. You can see the schedule there. And in case there are changes, it's important that you're able to see them so you don't show up to the wrong day and that sort of thing. So the link to join the Facebook group is right here. And this document that I'm broadcasting right now is it's you can access it right below the YouTube live stream if you're watching on YouTube. The second thing is if you do have a question, you'll want to call in to the video chat. So again, you want to open this document if you haven't yet, so you can get that link. And again, the document's right below the YouTube live stream. In terms of updates for me, I am kind of turning my attention now. I spent a lot of time working on practical JavaScript in the last few weeks, and now I've turned my attention to underscore and am working on that with my full attention. So I guess as soon as something news comes from that, then I'll let you know. But hope to have a new video in the underscore series for premium sooner than later. So that's it for me. From here, we'll just go ahead and go into open questions. Okay, we'll start with Andrew. Did you have a question?
No technical questions here.
I know.
Here.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit before the broadcast, but are there any other questions that they don't have to be technical, but general questions?
Not at the moment. I might. I know I've had a couple run through my head, but I've forgotten them. So, if I remember, I'll chime in.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Andrew. Let's move to Amir.
Hey, Gordon. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Good to see you again. Good to see everybody. I did have a couple questions. One was on, it's just a general question from Accounting.js. I think I was watching the video on the IFI, and there was a comment where you had said that, oh, you know, the variables that, you know, we declare in the self-invoking or the IFI, they're hidden. We want to hide. We're hiding them in there. But I guess I just want to make sure that really that only applies if we're sort of using those variables and functions to create a library that we, you know, attach the window object, right? Because I mean, if we just have an IFI and we just declare a bunch of variables and some functions, and then we just run the self-ex or the IFI, then they just sort of, they're not hidden. They're really first they're available for use, obviously, but then they're not there anymore, right? They're sort of gone, right? That's basically my question.
Well, it depends. So if you like add event listeners, those are like persistently there,
right?
So if you have code that is later referred to in the application, then it will still stick around. But if there's code in your function and it's never used again, yeah, you won't be able to.
Okay.
Right. Which
okay.
There's no other way it could be.
Actually, what did you say? Could be what?
So I guess I don't really understand your question. It's best.
Well, I guess there's no point.
An example so we can be more concrete.
No, I mean, I was just sort of, I don't think there's really any point to doing what I had said anyway. Mm-hmm. I was just curious, right? I mean, we wouldn't really, there'd be no point in, you know, and creating an IIFE and then defining, declaring variables in there and functions and then not doing anything with them. That's just there's no point to that.
Well, it does allow it allows your code not to interfere with other code.
Oh, right.
Right. So if you're using a library, you might interfere with something else.
Right. If we're using a library, then definitely, yeah.
Or just there's other code running.
Okay.
Then you won't interfere with the other variables that are declared.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that was really it for accounting, and I'm only just at the closures lecture, so I'm not too far into it. I do have one more. I just have one more question. I'm sure you've heard enough of this by now, but yeah, I wanted to ask about this again. I think in one of those lectures, you were going through the cheat sheet again, and I was sort of glancing at it, and you were going through the first case for the window object, which was relevant to the IIFE. But then I saw the second case, and I immediately noticed it was definitely different. And so I paused the video and I looked at it.
Can you show us?
Yeah.
I don't think any of us can imagine what you're saying.
All right, no problem. Okay. Okay, do you guys have everything there? Do you see my screen? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, this is as it is now. And then I'd have to find it, but let me see. Looking down here. Sorry about that. Slide. Sorry, I guess I should have had it ready.
Can we come back to you after you find it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, that was the only one. So let me give you the screen back to you. I'll look for it.
Okay, we'll take your time, and then once you find it, I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Did you get the screen back?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Joe, do you have any questions? Joseph?
I don't have anything in particular at the moment. I kind of, after I finished the Beasts, I kind of took a little break. So I'm basically looking for the starting point to get into the book club, and that's what I'm going to do to start next. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, awesome, nice work. I think Khan was next.
Hi, Gordon. Hi, everyone. Actually, so I refinished this practical JavaScript course again, and just started to do some experimental things on my to-do project. Also, actually, I have in my mind before this course a to-do project for myself, because I need this in this current to-do projects and apps. So it doesn't allow me to do which I want to do. So my question is that after the finishing this, refinishing the practical JavaScript course, I'm not sure I should continue with this unit testing lessons, or I a little bit go into this handlebars and maybe a little bit say learn more about the CSS and other things. So actually that's my question. I'm still like say, I'm not sure should I continue with the say this test lessons or improve my current skills, the basic things. I'm not sure.
Did you do all the digestion techniques for the reading section?
Yeah, I did. The point is that I see some people. It's okay. It's wrong to look other persons, but I see some people that work on the React Native, and they still even question about this or basic things about the JavaScript. I don't want to be a person like this. I can go into Node.js, React Native directly right now. I know that, and a lot of people do it. But then 3 months later, I don't want to be, oh, I just missed some say basic points. Say I couldn't understand the fundamentals like that. And then I want to be sure, but it's really hard to be sure for yourself as a beginner. So it's not so technical question, but I'm not sure. So I don't know how I can explain it. Maybe
Yeah.
it sounds so stupid. So,
No.
but so that's my problem right now, and it's also really stress me about that actually.
Well, is there anything
It's
you're not
funny.
sure about? Are there any technical things that you're not sure about? Like if I asked you anything, like a random line of code in any of the code bases we looked at, would you feel comfortable talking about?
Yeah. So also, so maybe say you remember, say I stuck at this and and scope, and then say I learn. I spent say 2 weeks to say get into deep these topics, and then refinish this practical JavaScript course. It was really great decisions to understand the object and other things. But now I'm still not sure I should continue or just write vanilla JavaScript, my version of to do a little bit advanced. Like I said, some event allocations, more complicated things, and then continue with this testing lessons.
Yeah. Well, so Khan, there's one thing you can do is rewrite the code base in the reading section. So right now it uses jQuery and remove the jQuery. So it doesn't use any jQuery.
Okay.
That would be, I think, pretty useful exercise. And if you did that, I think you would
It's with handlebars, yeah? With handlebars.
Yeah, exactly. Just no jQuery.
Okay.
Right. So that really it forces you to learn handlebars too, because you have to use it in a different context. Obviously, everything the jQuery does, you have to figure out how to do that too. And I think that could be a really good exercise if you're right. So you're basically, if you're not sure, I think doing that exercise after you do that, you would feel pretty good. So if you're looking for that, I want that. It looks like you're looking for that feeling, almost.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that doing that exercise would kind of prove to yourself that, kind of give you.
I'm ready to the next section.
Exactly. I think it'll give you a lot of confidence. Yep. And you'd feel like you'd be ready to move on.
Yeah. So okay, definitely I will do it. So okay, handlebars and vanilla JS.
Yeah. So same thing. Just remove the jQuery step by step.
Step by step, or just remove all app.js.
So basically, at the end, you should be able to remove the. Right now, there's a script tag that includes jQuery. You should be able to remove it, and it should still work, right? And so that means every single time it calls jQuery, you need to not call jQuery. You have to do the equivalence without it. Right?
Okay.
And that will really force you to confront what's happening. There's just no way around it. Like if you do that exercise, you really will need to understand everything. Right.
Okay.
It's also almost like if you do that, guaranteed you'll probably feel really confident because it's deserved. Like you've proven it to yourself. And I think that it seems like that's kind of what you're looking for. Like you want to kind of prove to yourself that you're ready. And I think that exercise would definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely. Just I see people. One of my friends, for example, just spend a week for say JavaScript and then say go into the say React Native. Now after the 3 months, he's a good app developer, but I want to be good programmer. There is a big difference in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thank you. So
You're
definitely
welcome.
do it.
Yeah, and it's really good. Khan, I think you've done a lot of things really well. So I just want to like keep up the good work, and you've like pretty high self-awareness. Like when you feel like you're unsure about something, you like address it versus just kind of hope it's okay and move on. Like you're actually trying to test your assumptions about where you are, which is a really good thing. Yeah, so do that exercise. Let me know how it is, and let me know how you feel after you do that. I think you'll feel a lot better. Is my guess.
I
but
hope.
but
Yeah,
we'll see.
I hope. I trust you, sir. So I hope that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Did you have anything else, Khan? Any other
That's all.
questions?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to Hernando. Hernando, what's up?
Hey Gordon, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
No questions here. I'm going to use that suggestion that you made to Khan because I've been going through the jQuery to do app, and I'd done that suggestion that you made about deleting each method and rewriting it from understanding, and I've been doing that. I've nearly finished, and it's going well. I haven't had any problems. I mean, I've been rewriting the whole method with jQuery from understanding, from looking at other methods and where it's referenced, etc. But that suggestion that you gave to Khan, I think I'm going to do that as well. That sounds really cool. Removing the jQuery and just writing it as wherever the jQuery selectors are or whatever, the methods, changing them to plain JavaScript ones. But yeah, so I'm going to do that as well afterwards. I'm also going to read through I think I'm going to spend this month probably looking at the To-Do app, the jQuery one, and learning CSS and more HTML from the actual app, because I need to get an understanding of CSS. I don't really know any of it, and I think if I study the app and use a few online resources, so yeah. But that was a really good idea, and I think I'll do that as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think it's really good that you're doing that, Hernando, and I think other people, if you're unsure,
I think everyone just runs through this too quick.
Yep.
Maybe I'm just saying that to make myself feel better, but I think because I mean when I first done it, this is my second time around on the jQuery To-Do app. I didn't do any of this like deleting each method. I thought, yeah, I know it. I understand it, and I didn't really bother with deleting each method and rebuilding one method at a time. And it's surprising how it's not as easy as you think, and it forces you to really look at the code and see where that missing method has been referenced, and jumping into the console and the debugger, and I think it's well worth doing that, in addition to that one that you just mentioned to Khan.
Yeah, I guess people are. Go ahead.
I honestly think people run through this too quickly because it takes quite some time, that when you do it properly.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Hernando. For people that are listening, and even people in the Hangout right now, the tendency for most students, the average student, is to go too fast. And
let's have a hands up. Who actually deleted each method in the digestion thing and rebuilt it?
It's fine. We don't have to put people on the spot, but I can say the tendencies that people don't really do the exercises, and then when they do the exercises, they don't really do them. It's almost like they looked at it and they like have the image in their head and then they do it. So like even when they do it, they're not doing it, I think, the way that they're intended to be done. the result is usually when, like, if I probe a little bit and ask someone a question, even a kind of simple question about the application that they've told me they understand completely, usually they can't answer the first question I ask, which is intended to be an easy question. So that is the very common case. So if you're watching, doing the digestion techniques, if you haven't done that, I highly recommend you do that. And if after you do that, consider the exercise Khan and Hernando are doing, which is remove jQuery. You could even just, the script tag that includes jQuery, just delete it, and everything will be broken. And then just kind of step by step, make all the errors go away, right? It's almost like an error-driven development. You want to reduce all the errors. So that's I think it's a particularly good exercise because there's no way around it. You have to, if you do that exercise, you will understand it. There's just no way to like fudge that. So
quick question on that. Just like,
yep.
Do you think that's more beneficial or removing multiple methods?
You should do both. Removing the methods is easy relative to what I'm. So removing jQuery is something you should do after you thoroughly do the digestion techniques. I think if you don't do the digestion techniques, it will be extremely difficult to do what Khan and Hernando are doing. So I would take it step by step. And when you do digestion techniques, n1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually do n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3. Don't like try to do the whole thing on your own from the beginning.
Gordon, sorry, what is n equals? I forgot. What is n equals?
Right, it's the builds. So delete every combination of one missing feature. Remember, delete every combination and then remove 2 and every combination of 2 missing. Do you remember that? It's the digestion techniques from the reading section. So at the very end, you should have deleted the whole thing because there's only one combination of everything missing. And that exercise is good. It's an easier exercise, but part of the power of it is that it's pretty approachable. Like it should be quite doable. But the weakness of it is it doesn't have the properties of like removing jQuery, where you must get it right, and you will know if it's wrong. You will know. It will be very obvious, and you can't look for the answer. You actually have to check the behavior and see if the behavior is right. Right, and so it's much more difficult, but I think also in a way much more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been like deleting one method at a time, one random method at a time. So I will try the other one, but yeah, it's been quite interesting. I mean, I like I said, I thought I knew it the first time around, and when on this time around, when I've actually done the digestion techniques and then done this delete a method, it really does force you to really look into it and see it on another level that you probably didn't realize before. Yeah, so I'm going to definitely do that.
Awesome. So I think we just have Steven left. Steven, are you there? Steven? Okay. Well, Steven, I'll come back to you. So if you... Oh, 1 second. Okay. We'll wait a second.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay. I forgot to set my microphone as the default. I don't actually have any questions. I just wanted to see what the office hours were about because I haven't been to one yet.
Okay.
So I'm just going to be observing.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Okay, we'll go back to Amir because you're looking for that code example from before.
Hey, yeah, I actually found it. So I'll switch screens. Okay. Okay. Can you guys see this, or should I make it bigger?
It looks good.
Okay. So yeah, I saw this and I immediately thought that looks different. And
We saw
so
what?
well, so this is what it is right now. When a function is called as a method, this is the left of the dot rule.
Yep.
And this case made me think of our conversation last week, and I thought, this really makes sense, but I sort of realized why you changed this. And I think the biggest takeaway from last week, our conversation, I think I learned from you, was that the reason this doesn't work perfectly is because this isn't really dictated by where it's not, the value of this isn't dictated by where the method is defined, which I think is what this is kind of saying. And, from, like I said, from last week, I think you were trying to tell me, well, that's really not what it is. Just because the keyword shows up, and it doesn't matter that it's defined. It's defined by an object. It's sort of based on what object is invoking it or calling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So the change here is, I thought the wording I had originally in this video wasn't as good. Yeah. And
Okay.
and so what you see today, so you scroll over to this third tab, because and it's because of feedback that I got. I think people were getting confused about, and part of it was my fault, which is that they thought that whenever you call a method, then this will be equal to the object that the method is on. But that doesn't happen but this doesn't happen if you had like, so let's say, Amir, that you had Amir function equals object dot my method, and then you called Amir function. Right? That I mean, it's technically kind of a method, but it becomes confusing. But it's definitely not being, if you called Amir function, it's not being called as a method. Right? And so the distinguishing part of case 2 is that the function is called as a method.
Okay.
And when you call it as a method, you always have a dot, or you have, talk about the other syntax, the bracket syntax.
Right.
But you must have that. So yeah, the wording I think in the original was not great.
This would work though if we just changed it to, instead of this point to the object that contains, wouldn't it be pretty much accurate if it was in a method this points to the object that invokes the method? Or then that would work.
I still think that wording is confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is
this wording.
Okay. Because this is actually harder for me when I look at this, because as a complete novice, this was super arbitrary to me, because I kept looking at this, and for instance, let's say we had a method, that was like this dot my method. Well, I'd say left of the dot is this,
yep.
But what is this?
That's right.
And so it's a little bit, as a complete beginner, you can just kind of get stuck there if you don't know how to use this case.
Well, you have to look through the cases again. So if you have this dot my method, and this inside of my method will be the left of the dot, which is this, you have to look at what is this inside of the outer function.
Right. Exactly. And that's also sort of another level of,
you definitely see it in here.
Abstract, because I would look at, like, for instance, when we were talking about this week, last week, we were talking about inside. We have to pretend like, in this on method, there's source code for this method, and in this context, in this method, is different from just this right here, and so it gets a little bit warpy.
Yeah,
And
you need to be very clear about what you're talking about, right? Like this in 56, like this create and then bind this, that is this inside of bind events.
Right.
So you need to be
Right.
really clear about that.
This one here, this is the one inside bind events.
Oh,
this keyword.
Any this inside from 56 through line
Right.
64 is inside of bind event.
Exactly. Exactly. That's where it gets a little tricky, because so anyway, I just want to point that out, but I think it's this is a good case 2 is good just if you know how to use it.
Yeah.
So
So the reason I like the wording of case 2 is because when called as a method, there's a visual cue that you cannot screw up. Like there's a dot or there's a bracket.
Right.
Like you can't screw it up.
But then there's also this that is kind of attached to a non-method. You know, if I'm like remember I think a lot of people got mixed up on this dot to-dos, which to-dos isn't necessarily, it's a method. It's just like where, so if I were to say, oh, this dot to-do is left of the dot.
Well, but to-dos is not see, there's no function being called.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, so each, if you really think about it, each of these things is a really primitive rule from practical JavaScript. But the difficulty is when you combine and they're all mixed together.
Right.
Yeah. And programming it doesn't get really more complicated than that. It's just the same basic rules mixed together.
Right.
That's why the fundamentals are so important, because you just can't avoid them ever.
Yeah. So anyway, just want to point that out. And I think as you go through the course and
wait, can you stop sharing?
Yeah. Definitely. Does that work? Okay.
Sorry, you were saying as you go through the course.
Yeah, as you go through the course, I think it is an arbitrary thing, that this keyword. And there's just, like you said, that's why you have multiple cases. And it's just all about context. So I think as I've gone through the course, I've learned a lot more about this. It's becoming more apparent. So anyway, that was I just wanted.
Hopefully it's getting more comfortable.
It is definitely getting more comfortable.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah.
Amir, are you going to do the exercise that remove jQuery from the reading section?
You mean just the jQuery code and replace it with JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript code?
I'll be very specific.
Okay.
So, the maze dealer. Okay, hopefully Google Hangouts won't crash, because Hangouts has a bad track record.
Tendency of that.
Yep. So this is the jQuery to do MVC, right? This one. What I mean by delete the jQuery is you go into your index.html and you find this and you just comment it out.
Oh, okay.
And then
yeah, that looks
you
fun.
try to add something, you should get some gnarly errors. Well, this is the first thing you'll get. And it'll be like, oh shit, you need to fix that. Right. And then you fix that and you get a new error. And then you get a new error, and then you get a new error. And then once the basic errors are gone, you need to get things to work. Like you need to get add to work. Once you can add something, you need to get delete to work, right? And then once you get add and delete, you need to get edit to work, and so on.
That looks like a very fun time.
The key thing is you can delete this line or you can comment it out. It's up to you. But makes sense. So it's a very concrete. I think I like this exercise better. I think I should adapt the digestion techniques to include this almost as a requirement, because this is an exercise you can't, if you do it, you will get the benefit. Like you can't do it halfway and you can't screw it up really. Whereas like the end missing features exercise, I think it's a very large variance in how people do it, which leads to either good results or bad results. And I think that's a weakness of the exercise. I think this exercise is much better.
Yeah, I will
Nice.
definitely do that. Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that. Probably first chance I get.
Okay. And it forces you to confront all these things.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, I wish I didn't go past the digestion techniques. It's just I was like a train, you know, like a locomotive, and then you told me about it, and now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, you know, and I'm kind of trying to take chunks of time out to go back and do that. But it's definitely worth noting
You should.
that it's important to do that, even if you understand the code or you think you understand the code.
Because we want to make sure you understand the code. Because
Right.
beginners have, through lots of data and talking to lots of students, don't have a good sense of if they understand stuff.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are confident about it. Those are usually the most wrong. The people that are more skeptical are usually actually closer. The more higher self-awareness.
Try to explain it to somebody who doesn't know JavaScript, then you know if you understand it or not.
That could help, but it's not as good as removing the jQuery, I think. Because
or at least using that as a baseline of whether or not you understand it is trying to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah, but I think that's still problematic. It's a good thing to try for sure, but I think because the problem is there's nothing forcing you to. There's no bar that you have to cross, right? Because like eventually your friend will just, even if you're the worst explainer ever, they just be like, oh yeah, it's fine, and because they want you to shut up, or they'll be like, I can't figure this out. Like you just can't trust them when they say they understand it, right? It's not because humans, you can't trust them, but this you cannot screw it up. You just do it or you don't, right? You get to work, you don't. And that's I think why this is better than even the stuff I have right now. So I think I need to go back and modify the digestion techniques. Let me add a note. I'll do that. But yeah, I mean, like Steven, your suggestion is really good as a supplement. But I think doing this is
it's not as concrete.
Yes, this is like an infallible. You will understand it if you do it. And you can't cheat. There's just no versus your friend might be really nice. If your friend is really nice, you won't do as much. You won't do the exercise as well. Okay, let me add a note. So add.
Wait, who said it has to be your friend? You just don't go up to random strangers on the corner?
Well, it depends on how nice that person is. So add to move. Okay. Cool. So I think we've hit all the questions. So anyone have a last thing before we end the broadcast? Or comment? Something they're dying to say? Anyone? All right, I'll assume that's a no. Oh, Joe, you're gonna say something?
I was just gonna say something because you brought up errors for a second, and like, especially when I first started, like when I'd write code and then I'd see an error, you kind of get like this like panicky feeling, like oh shit,
your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate.
Yeah, but errors are like the best thing about writing code because it literally points you to the right direction. It's like a map of where you need to start to fix everything. So I just like if anyone's catching this, just if you get an error, just read the error. Look at the line of the code that it's indicating. Look at what the error is saying, and that will just put it all together. It's good stuff. Errors are great. Errors are your friend. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want to hear.
Good advice. Listen to Joe. Okay, so I will end the broadcast. It looks like the questions, we've gone through all of them. So If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Hope it was helpful. If you have any feedback for me, you can email me, gordon@watchandcode.com. Feedback's good, positive and negative. That's what helps get things get better. Like when Amir showed the cheat sheet a few months ago versus today. Like I want to do more things like that. That comes through feedback. So any feedback is really appreciated. And hope it was helpful. If you want to join us for a more casual off the air conversation, you want to call into the Hangout, and I'll probably stick around after the broadcast for maybe 30 minutes or so. So if you want to do that, then join the Hangout right now. And if not, I will see you next week. I'll see y'all.